Israel has carried out strikes on Syrian government forces in the southern city of Suweida. Israel says it aims to protect the local Druze minority after deadly clashes there. The Syrian forces were deployed to the city in a bid to stop escalating sectarian violence that broke out between Sunni Bedouin tribes and the Druze. Earlier, Syria's defense minister announced a ceasefire following talks with religious leaders from the minority sect. We're now joined by Professor for Internal Relations, Fawaz Gerges, from the London School of Economics, to help us understand these recent events in Syria. Professor, let's start with the Israeli actions from today. What is Israel trying to achieve by bombing Syrian forces in Sweida?
This is not the first time that Israel basically has attacked Syrian forces, basically trying to come across as a protector of the Druze community. In May, Israel attacked a target near the presidential palace because of the fighting between the Syrian authorities and the Druze communities. There's a sizable Druze community in Israel, and it's a very influential community. And what Israel is trying to do in Syria is to basically send a powerful message to the Syrian authorities that it is a protector of the Syrian community in Syria, even though many Druze, most of the Druze in Syria, do not really want Israel to intervene in the very dangerous and chaotic situation inside Syria.
Now, what can we learn from the timing? This attack is coming soon after the ceasefire was announced. Can that still hold?
I think the big question for your own viewers is that the situation is very chaotic. There are multiple clashing narratives coming out of Syria. Here's what we know. More than 100 people have been killed in the fighting in the past few days between Arab Bedouin clans and the Druze fighters and government officials. We know that the Syrian authorities have used the clashes in order to extend their authority into Suweida, a Druze-dominated area. We also know that Israel has attacked some Syrian tanks under the pretext of trying to protect the Druze community. The reality is, the big point, the overarching point, is that many Syrians, including Druze and Alawite and Christians and others, have deep suspicions of the new authorities in Damascus. They basically have mistrust that the new regime that's being set up in Damascus lacks inclusiveness, genuine inclusiveness, and is very exclusive. So the reality is, this is not the first time that fighting has erupted within Syria since the fall of Assad in December 2024.
You mentioned this lack of inclusiveness, even though the al-Shara government promised to be an inclusive government. What do these latest developments say about the stability of that government?
This is the most important question. The most important question is that 7 months after the downfall of the dictator Assad, Syria does not have stability, Syria does not have security. Many communities inside Syria do not trust the authorities. There have been many massacres. Almost 2,000 Alawites were massacred a few weeks ago. We have repeated incidents of disappearances. Young Alawite women are being kidnapped on a weekly basis. There have been major fighting between the minority Druze community and the Syrian authorities. I think what the Syrian government is trying to do is to throw military force at it. In fact, the most effective means is to really build trust among the various population, to engage in a genuine political inclusive process, to convince all Syrians, not only the power base of the regime, the Sunnis, that this is a government for all. This is a representative government. So the reality is, even though the government has the support of regional and international powers, it really lacks a major support within Syria itself.
Fawaz Gerges from the London School of Economics there. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us. Let's get an update from Israel with our Jerusalem Bureau Chief Tania Krämer. Tania, what are you hearing from the Israeli government? How do they explain this attack?
Well, we heard, first of all, from the military that they were, under the guidance of the political echelon, instructed to strike, as they said, military vehicles. These are belonging to Syrian regime forces, and that came after there had been monitoring armored vehicles and tanks on Monday night moving in a convoy into the area. They were also striking those. Now, that came when we heard also today again from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz. They reaffirmed what we've been hearing from them now many times, that basically they're protecting the Druze community there. They're striking those regime forces and weapons as well, trying, that they do not come close to this area. So what the message here is basically is trying to portray themselves, as Israel said, as a protector of this Druze community in Syria, but also, as some analysts have said, they want to avoid that those regime forces are too close to the area, which is close to the occupied Golan Heights.
Now, can you help us understand the Israeli Druze community? Do they support the Israeli government in their line with a new Syrian state?
Well, I think it's hard always to generalize, but I think, what we are seeing today, for example, there are currently some protests going on, basically blocking a major highway in Israel by some Druze, people from the Druze community, saying, more needs to be done against this violence they're seeing in Sweida. Now, time and time again, the Israeli government has said they're here to protect the Syrian Druze community on the other side of the occupied Golan Heights. They have been, there is a very large Syrian Jewish community on the occupied Golan Heights here on this side. And, again, they also don't want this zone to become militarized. But we also have heard from analysts, what we've been seeing when the Assad regime fell, the Israeli military moving into the buffer zone. So that is something that is certainly meant as a message to the regime in Syria, to the new government there, although there have been also reports of warming relations between between the Israeli government and the new Syrian government there. But still, there's also a lot of mistrust, and also mistrust when it comes to the track record of this new Syrian government when it comes to minorities and the communities in Syria.
Our correspondent Tania Krämer there reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you, Tania.